Jai Hind students, welcome to my physics classes. Students, you are only confined by the walls you build yourself. I repeat, you are only confined by the walls you build yourself. Actually, mind is the chief factor governing the body. One should always avoid suggesting to the mind the thoughts of human limitations. So, students, everything is possible, just it depends on your willpower and hard work.
With that positive note, students, let's begin today's session. We will discuss today some additional questions. We have done NCERT questions. Now we are supposed to do some additional questions based on work, power and energy. So let's begin with the first question. An engine pulls a train 1 kilometer over a level track. Calculate the work done by the train given that the frictional resistance is 5 into 10 to the power 5 Newton. So students, the force is given. And this is actually the force of friction. It is given to be 5 into 10 raised to the power 5 Newton. And the distance through which the engine pulls the train is 1 kilometer. So S, it's given to be 1 kilometer. Convert it in SI. 1 kilometer is 1000 meters. Now students, here, this is suppose the train moving along this direction, so the displacement will be along this direction, and frictional resistance means it is the force which acts in a direction opposite to which the body tends to move. So body is moving from left to right, so the frictional resistance or force will act from right to left, that is in the opposite direction. So here F, the frictional force, and S are oppositely directed, that is the angle between them is 180 degree. And we have discussed work done, students, in this case would be negative, right? So work done in this case, it would be equal to F into S. Here it will be minus F into S. Students, remember, whenever the displacement of the body is in a direction opposite to that of the force applied, then the work done is always negative. So it will be equal to minus 5 into 10 raised to the power 5 multiplied by 1000. So it will be equal to minus 5 into 10 raised to the power 8 joule. This negative sign signifies that the force and the displacement of the train are oppositely directed. So this is the frictional force. So the work done by the frictional force is minus 5 into 10 raised to the power 8 joule, right? Okay, let us concentrate on question number 2. A man weighing 70 kg carries a weight of 10 kg on the top of a tower 100 meter high. We are supposed to calculate the work done by the man, and we need to consider the value of G as 10 meter per second square, right? The mass of the man is 70 kg and he carries a weight of mass, carries a load of mass 10 kg. So total mass, suppose it is represented by capital M. It would be equal to mass of the man plus mass of the load, that is 70 plus 10. It is equal to 80 kg. Now observe the unit, it's kg, so it is actually the mass of the load under consideration, that is 10 kg, right? So total mass of the man and the load is 80 kg. So what will be the total weight? Total weight, it would be equal to M into G, isn't it? This is the force I am talking about. So total mass is 80 and G is to be taken as 10. So it will be equal to 800 Newton. So basically, this is the situation. This is, suppose this block represents the man as well as the load which it carries, right? And it has to be raised through a height of, it's given to be 100 meter. It has to be raised through a height of 100 meter. Now as you are aware, students, in this case, the amount of work done in making a body to raise its height would be stored in the body in the form of its potential energy, isn't it? So here work done, it would be equal to increase in the potential energy. Increase in the potential energy when it is raised through height of 100 meter. And expression for the potential energy is mgh. What is mg? Mg is the weight, that is 800 Newton. And what is the displacement? 100. So students, we get 8 into 10 raised to power 4 joule. So this is the work done, right? You could have done it directly as well. This is the weight which will act in the downward direction. So in order to compensate this weight, this force is to be applied in the upward direction. And the displacement is also in the upward direction. So in this case, work would be simply given by force multiplied by displacement. You would have obtained the same answer by using this as well. Force, it's the weight mg, it's given to be 800. Multiplied by height is 100. So you would have got the same result. So either make use of work energy theorem or directly you could have made use of the formula for finding the work done, which is force into displacement along the direction of the force applied, right? So the answer of question 2 is 8 into 10 to the 4 joule of work is required to be done by the man. So students, let's proceed to question number 3 now. How fast should a man of mass 60 kg run so that his kinetic energy is 750 joule? Okay, we are aware whenever we consider the case of a moving body, then the amount of energy, or rather the nature of the energy stored in the body, must be kinetic. Kinetic energy is the energy possessed by a body by virtue of its motion. Now here the kinetic energy is given to be 750 joule. Mass of the man is given to be 60 kg. And what we are supposed to find is how fast, means we are supposed to find out the velocity of the man at that instant. Now we know that kinetic energy is given by half mv square. That is, let's substitute the value. 750 is equal to half, mass is 60, multiplied by v square. That is, v square, it would be equal to 750 multiplied by 2 divided by 60. 0 get cancelled. So we get 75 divided by 3 or 25. That is, v square is equal to 25, which implies that the velocity must be equal to 5 meter per second. Clear, students? So the man must be running with a speed of 5 meter per second so as to have a kinetic energy of 750 joule. Now let's concentrate on question number 4. In each of the following, in each of these 3 cases, we are supposed to tell, or rather F is the force acting on the object of mass m, right? The direction of the displacement is from west to east, that is from left to right. State whether the work done by the force is negative, positive or 0. So these are the 3 situations given, right? So we are aware work is a scalar quantity. It can be positive, it can be negative, and even it can be 0. While doing the theoretical portion, we have discussed in what conditions work done on a body may be 0, it may be positive, or it may be negative, right? So let's consider on these 2. Here, students, the angle between force and displacement is 90 degrees. Suppose the angle is theta. It is 90 degree over here. Theta is the angle between force and the displacement. Here, the angle between these 2 is 90 degree, right? Whenever the displacement of the body takes place in a direction perpendicular to the force applied, then work done is 0. That is, no work is done in that case, right? So in the first case, work done is 0. Here, students, the force as well as the displacement, both are acting in the same direction. So here theta is equal to 0 degree, right? So whenever the body gets displaced along the direction of the force applied, then work done is always positive. Work done is always positive in the case when the body gets displaced along the direction of the force applied, right? Now let's consider the third case. Here students, the force and the displacement are oppositely directed. So here angle between force and displacement is 180 degree. So whenever such a case arises, then the work done is found to be negative. So this is the case where work done is negative. Right students, again I repeat. Whenever the displacement of the body is perpendicular to the direction of the force applied, then no amount of work is done by the force. If the body gets displaced along the direction of the force applied, then the work done is always positive. And if the displacement of the body is in a direction opposite to which the force acts, then the work done by this force is negative. Right? Okay, let's concentrate on the next question then. A freely falling object eventually stops on reaching the ground. Right? What happens to its kinetic energy? This is what we are supposed to state. Now look, it can be easily explained with the help of the law of conservation of energy, right? Now basically, when a freely falling body eventually stops on reaching the ground, its kinetic energy appears in the form of heat, sound, as well as it might be also appearing in the form of potential energy of configuration of the body and the ground, right? The body may get deformed and the ground may be depressed at the place of collision. Clear students? So this question can be easily explained using the law of conservation of energy. Okay, suppose this is the height through which a body is made to fall, right? And this is the ground. Now initially the velocity of the body is 0. As it comes down, what happens is its velocity will keep on increasing. And at the instant when it strikes the ground, its velocity is maximum, isn't it? So at the instant of striking the ground, the kinetic energy of the body striking the ground is maximum. At this point, students, kinetic energy, it gets converted into heat. It gets converted into heat. That is, the body and the ground become warmer due to the collision. The body and the ground become warmer due to the collision. Right? So, a part of kinetic energy gets converted into heat. Second is, obviously, when the body strikes the ground, some sound is also produced. And as we are aware, sound is a form of energy. So, this sound is also produced due to the collision of the body with the ground. So, this kinetic energy with which the body strikes the ground, it gets converted into heat energy as well as sound energy. Also, students, as I have stated, the potential energy of this body due to the configuration of the body and the ground as a result of the deformation of the body, and the ground may also get depressed at the place of collision. So, some part of the kinetic energy may get converted into its potential energy due to the configuration of the body as well, right? So, this process in which the kinetic energy of this freely falling body is lost in an unproductive chain of energy, that is known as dissipation of energy. So this process in which the kinetic energy of the falling body gets converted into unproductive forms of energy like heat energy, sound energy, or potential energy of the system, as we have discussed right now, it is known as dissipation of energy. This entire thing is known as dissipation of energy. So it is perfectly in accordance with the law of conservation of energy. Right? Okay, let's concentrate on the third question then. Last one, sixth question. Now we are supposed to illustrate the law of conservation of energy by discussing the energy changes which occur when we draw a pendulum bob to one side and allow it to oscillate. And we are also supposed to tell why does the bob eventually come to rest. Now students, look, this is a simple pendulum. This is a heavy metallic brass. It's of spherical shape. It is known as the bob. It is known as bob. And this is known as the point of suspension. This is a rigid support. And this point is known as the point of oscillation. This is the mean position, suppose O. And these are the two extreme positions, suppose A and B. Now suppose this bob is disturbed from its mean position and taken to point A, and then it is released. Then it will swing along this path, AOB. Right? It will keep on swinging like this. With the passage of time, what happens is its oscillation will tend to die out, and eventually it will again come back to rest at its mean position. Right? So O is the equilibrium position, A and B are the extreme positions. So let us consider this bob be drawn to one side. Suppose it is drawn to point B. Now as it is moved from point O to point B, obviously it has gained some height. Suppose this height is h, isn't it? So due to gain in height, obviously it will gain in potential energy, which is equal to mgh. And at the extreme position, the bob is at rest. So here the kinetic energy is 0 and potential energy is maximum. So students, at the extreme positions, at the extreme points or at the extreme positions, which are the extreme positions? A and B. Here, potential energy is maximum while kinetic energy is 0. Because at the extreme position, the bob stops momentarily. So, due to the fact that it comes to rest for a very, very small time at the extreme position, its velocity becomes 0 and hence kinetic energy of the bob at the extreme position is 0. So at the extreme position, A or B, on either side of the mean position, the potential energy of the bob will be maximum, which will be equal to mgh. M is the mass of the bob and h is the height with respect to this reference line at the extreme position, right? While kinetic energy would be 0. Now students, as it moves from B to A, now here the bob is released, as it moves from B to A, what happens is, as it comes down, it will lose in height and it will gain in velocity. So as the bob moves from B to O, its velocity increases and its potential energy gets converted into kinetic energy. So at point O, students, the potential energy of the bob at the extreme position completely gets converted into kinetic energy at the mean position. So at the mean position, mean position is the equilibrium position, that is at point O. Potential energy is 0. Look, when the bob is at this particular point, then h will become 0. And h will become 0 means potential energy will become 0. While at the mean position, the bob will attain maximum velocity. And kinetic energy is half mv square. So velocity is maximum means kinetic energy of the bob will be maximum. So all the potential energy at the extreme position get converted into kinetic energy at the mean position. Clear, students? Now again, when it moves from O to A, again as it moves from the mean position to the other extreme position A, then what happens? Its velocity decreases, but at the same time it is raised up. It is raised up, right? As it goes from mean to extreme position, it gains height and it loses velocity. So as such, it gains potential energy. And at point A, it temporarily comes to rest. So it has maximum value of potential energy and kinetic energy is 0, which we have discussed in the other extreme. So at both the extreme positions, potential energy is maximum and kinetic energy is 0. While at the mean position, kinetic energy is maximum and potential energy is 0. Thus, students, what we conclude is, as the bob oscillates between the extremes A and B, there is a continuous exchange. There is a continuous exchange between the potential energy and the kinetic energy. But the sum total of these two types of energies always remains constant. Total energy at point A, it is equal to total energy at point B. It is equal to total energy at the mean position. This always remains constant. And total energy would be sum total of kinetic energy and potential energy. That always remains constant. So, according to law of conservation of energy, if there is no loss of heat due to any external factors, then the kinetic energy and potential energy will keep on changing continuously as the bob oscillates between these two extreme positions. But the total energy of the bob at any instant during its motion will always remain constant. Right? Now let's discuss the answer of this part. Why does eventually the bob come to rest? Obviously, students, as the bob is disturbed from its mean position and released, it will keep on oscillating like this. And with the passage of time, its amplitude will keep on decreasing and eventually the bob will come to rest at the mean position. So it is because of the air resistance offered to the bob. This experiment must be performed in lab or in some room where obviously air is present, isn't it? So due to the air resistance or air friction, it always opposes the motion of the bob. So as a result of which, what happens is the amplitude of the bob will keep on decreasing and it will eventually, after the passage of some time, it will eventually come to rest. So the bob eventually comes to rest as it loses energy due to the air resistance or air friction. This is the main reason why the bob eventually comes to rest. And in case, students, air is assumed to be not present, in case of vacuum or free space where there is no air, then the bob would have oscillated indefinitely. It would keep on oscillating for indefinite period. It would never come to rest in case air resistance is considered to be negligible and all the other conditions are considered to be ideal ones. Right? So students, in this session we have discussed these 6 additional questions which were very important. I hope you will practice more such questions and that's it for this particular session. Keep studying, keep working hard, keep your dreams alive and always stay happy and keep smiling. Thank you.